Once again, good morning, good afternoon to all our attendees from around the world. Thank you for joining for this AgileAssets webinar on modern pavement management practices for cities and counties. Now let's get to our speaker, Magdy Mikhail. Magdy is a leader in the transportation research community, widely recognized pavement management expert. He worked for 20 years managing the largest state-owned road network in the United States. As the Texas DOT's Director of Pavement Asset Management, Magdy modernized the agency's approach to pavement management and implemented departmental innovations that resulted in TxDOT, the Texas DOT, being one of the highest performing road agencies in the U.S. and in many ways a model for other agencies to follow. Now he's the Director of Transportation Industry Solutions at AgileAssets. Here he applies his vast knowledge of pavement management practices to guide other agencies, including cities and counties, on how to advance their pavement management strategies and get the most benefits of proactive asset lifecycle management. Magdy, it's all you. Take it away.
Thank you, Nick. Greetings, everyone. I'm happy to be able to share with you some modern pavement management practices that have proven to be very successful for departments of transportation and agencies. They are recognized as the gold standard or the reference standards for pavement management. I used these practices very successfully during my tenure as the Director of Pavement Asset Management for TxDOT for many years. And now working for AgileAssets, I hope to help cities and counties and other agencies apply the same practices to save time, money, and lives. Today, I will cover what is pavement management, modern pavement management, key steps to achieve it, and benefits. Why should your agency invest time and money in a pavement management system? We'll also cover how to successfully implement a pavement management system using a solution like the AgileAssets solution. Then we'll present results from a case study from one of our clients. Then we'll wrap it up with questions and answers. So what's pavement management? Let's look at the traditional approach. The traditional approach focuses on few bad projects, worst roads, allows the agency to meet short-term goals, use up the money fast because you're spending all of your money on very few projects, and you don't get the most benefit from your investment. And it's more of a reactive approach. Whereas with the modern pavement management, you're focusing on the pavement network as a whole. It allows the agency to meet short-term goals and long-term goals, use the money effectively, and get the most benefit and return on investment. And it's a proactive approach that will allow the agency or will provide the agency with a safer, longer lasting pavements and save money now and in the future. There are 5 steps in pavement management, and I will cover each step and how they benefit your city or your county. So step 1, describe pavement condition and trends. You can generate reports on your pavement condition and provide these reports to your city engineer, your council member, or your county judge. Step 2, locate problem areas. You will be able to identify the roads that are in poor condition and plan accordingly. Step 3 is to identify the types of problems. Now you located the problem areas. To identify the types of problems, you know these roadways are in poor condition. whether it's because of rutting, or is it because of cracking, or is it because of ride quality. So you'll be able to identify the type of the problem, and maybe you need to plan some maintenance activities to address these types of problems. Step 4 is to estimate preventive maintenance and rehab needs. So if your city engineer or your county judge asks you how much it will cost to bring the roads to state of good repair, you'll be able to provide well-informed answers based on lane miles and dollars. And step number 5 is to develop work plans that will give you the best return on investment. Now, let's look at each step one-on-one in more details. So step 1 is to describe pavement condition and trends. In order to describe the pavement condition and trends, you need to start with pavement data collection. And after you do the data collection, you have to have processes in place to check the quality of your data. You're going to use this data to make decisions, so you need to make sure that you have good data. And once you accept the data is transformed into pavement condition scores that describe the condition of the road, and we'll discuss this later in the presentation. Pavement condition data can be divided into 3 groups. Distress data. The distress data describe the surface condition. They show the amount of cracking, the amount of rutting, the amount of failures, or the amount of potholes on the pavement. Then there is surface characteristics. Surface characteristics is basically how rough the road is, or how smooth the road is, how much texture does it have, or how much friction does it have. And these are important because they can impact safety. Next is the structural capacity. Structural capacity is basically the load carrying capacity of the pavement. How many trucks can the pavement carry, and how much load on these trucks? Now we have some examples of and pictures of some of the typical distresses for flexible pavements. We have shallow rutting, deep rutting, the different types of cracking, alligator cracking, longitudinal cracking, raveling, flushing, and so on. One way of collecting the distress data is visual ratings. You can train in-house staff to perform visual ratings, or you can work with a consultant that can provide you these services. Another way of collecting the distress data is automated data collection. These equipment use 3D cameras and line lasers, and they collect images. Then these images are analyzed to determine the different types of distresses. And then the data is provided to you in the required format. You don't have to buy these equipment. There are several companies or service providers that can provide this service to your city or county. Now, we talked about pavement data collection. Let's talk about scores. There are different types of scores: the distress score, the ride score, and the condition score. All what I'm going to say is that the condition score is a combination of the distress score and the ride score. I'm not going to go into how these scores are calculated. The condition score ranges from 0 to 100 and have different groups or classes that range from very good to very poor. This shows an example of a dashboard report generated by AgileAsset Pavement Management System. And at a glance, you can very quickly identify trends and answer key questions about your pavement network. We now finished talking about step 1. Let's move to step 2, which is locate problem areas. You can locate problem areas using GIS maps or graphs. Here is an example of a GIS map that shows the condition of the roads, of all the roads in a county in half-mile increments. Very quickly, you can identify the roads that are in poor conditions, the roads that are not performing well, and the roads that are performing very well. GIS maps provide a very quick and easy way of knowing the condition of your roads. Imagine trying to find this information looking at tables. Another way of identifying or looking at the condition is to generate a graph down the road. You're looking at your scores in the longitudinal direction. This is an example showing the IRI, the International Roughness Index, which is a measure of pavement smoothness. So we have the left IRI and the right IRI in the longitudinal direction. And the areas where I have circled, these are the rough spots that maybe the agency need to consider going and doing some spot level ups to kind of improve the reduce the roughness and improve the smoothness on this road. You can generate the same graph for your scores or for your distresses, and this can help you to be more proactive and help you in planning some of your maintenance activities. Step 3 is to identify the type of problems. And to identify the type of problems, you can also do it with reports and again with GIS maps like I discussed in step number 2. This is a GIS map showing the transverse cracks on the roadways. And this, now we've identified the problem that these roads have transverse cracking. And you can generate similar maps for alligator cracking, for rutting, and this also will help you in being proactive and planning some maintenance activities to address some of these problems. Step 4 is to estimate preventive maintenance and rehab needs. Most of the agencies have a goal. This goal could be to achieve an average score or to achieve a % of the roads or the roadways in your city or your county to be above a certain score. You can use your pavement management to determine how much it will cost to achieve these goals. After you do this analysis and to determine how much it will cost you to achieve your goals, you probably know how much is allocated to you for pavement maintenance and rehabilitation. In most likely scenarios, you don't have enough money to achieve the goal. Then what do? How do you prioritize your project? How do you handle the situation? Now you assess the adequacy of your overall funding. Basically, you identified the gap in your funding. You know how much it costs to achieve the goal, and you know how much money you have. So now you know the gap in funding. You also need to predict the future condition based on the available funding that you have to make the expectations clear. The next step, step 5, is to develop work plans. In order to develop work plans, you need to define your objective. Your objective is your goal. You want to maximize your performance. You can maximize your performance based on the overall pavement condition score or index. You can also maximize performance by eliminating the different types of distresses or improving ride. And you can also define and after you define your objective, you define your constraint. And the constraint in most cases is the budget, the available funds that you have. The next, you define the period. Do you want to develop work plans for 2 years, 4 years, or 5 years? And this, of course, can vary from one agency to another. Then your pavement management team will run the analysis and develop the work and generate the work plan. It's always a good idea to perform field validation, to drive on all the roads in your network. Maybe there may be some cases where there's an oil or gas well that's coming or being kind of developed, or there may be a new subdivision that may generate a lot of traffic or a new Walmart. So sometimes after these field visits and field validation, you may have to tweak or adjust the plan a little bit. Now let's move to how to successfully select and implement a pavement management system. We covered the benefits and the steps from a pavement management system. So now let's think, how do you select and implement a pavement management system? There are several things that you need to know when you're looking for a pavement management system to make sure that you are selecting the right solution for your agency. You need a web-based system that is user-friendly, that will give you easy access to the data, and is also easy to load the data into your system. So if you have data in spreadsheet, you should be able to bring it into the new system. If you have an old application, you should be able to bring it into the new system. You need a system that can generate interactive reports, so you can select some streets or roadways from your city or your county, and you can define the limits for these streets or roads, and you can generate reports on inventory, and you can also generate reports on pavement condition. You also need a system with integrated GIS maps or advanced GIS capabilities. You want a system that can bring layers from Esri or publish layers on Esri. You can bring in layers for your utility projects to help planning with your upcoming pavement projects. You don't want to be kind of cutting a brand new pavement. It's important to coordinate with other departments and to also minimize the disruptions to the traveling public. So this coordination brings a lot of value to all agencies. You need to also look at the system that will allow you to do analysis and through optimization and develop work plans to achieve a target. And this target could be the pavement scores or could be minimizing or reducing the stresses. So you need to have some flexibility on how you do the analysis to develop work plans. We need also a system that will support generating work plans for multiple years, 2 years or 4 years or 5 years. And you need the plans to be balanced. You don't want a plan where you spend all of your money on the first year or you spend all of your money on the last year. So it needs to be balanced. You need to look also at the system that will give you software as a service. Software as a service is a cloud-hosted solution based on a subscription model and will require lower resource investment. You don't have to worry about buying hardware or buying, equipment, and will allow you to get high performance and high security standards. And also you will be getting upgrades. There are several steps involved in selecting and implementing a pavement management system. Step one is to form a steering committee. This steering committee should be the champions and lead the efforts for selecting and implementing a pavement management system. But if it's not practical or feasible to form a committee, you need to have a champion that will lead this effort of selecting and implementing the pavement management system. You need to define the requirements. You need to define the requirements that will meet your business needs and strategic goals for your agency. You need to select the software solution. You need to vet all the options that are on the market and select the solution that best meets your requirements. Then you implement the solution. Implementation usually takes several months. It depends on the agency and what's needed and what's required. And again, you need to update your system, and with the SaaS solution, you will be able to get these frequent update, and you will be always using the latest version. I circled the steps where we at AgileAsset provides services and expertise to our client. Implementation is always a collaborative effort. You don't have to go through this process alone. Now let me give you some background about AgileAsset. Some of you may not be very familiar with AgileAssets. AgileAsset has grown over the last 25 years to be one of the global provider of providing pavement management software solutions. We are working with 22 agencies, or we're working in 22 states in different agencies. 50% of the roadways in the US are managed by AgileAssets Solutions, and we proudly work with several cities and counties. We also work overseas. We work with different transportation agencies overseas in Europe, in the Middle East, and in Asia. We work with small agencies and transportation departments, and also we provide also airport management services. Let me tell you about the Agile Pavement Management System. This is one of our most widely used solutions, and it's called Pavement Analyst. It will allow the agency to answer questions on the inventory. What pavement sections do I have? The lane miles for the different pavement types. What attributes do they have, like traffic levels, lane width, and what's the construction history? You can generate pavement profiles, and you can generate maps for surface age. More importantly is the performance analysis. You can analyze the condition trends of your network. You can select the best mix of treatments or project that will maximize the performance. You can determine how much it will cost to achieve a target, and you can evaluate different scenarios. You can run different what-if scenarios for different funding levels and different scenarios. And unlike other solutions on the market, Agile Assets is the only solution that uses true optimization, where you define an objective and you define a constraints, and you can do a multi-objective, multi-constraint analysis using operation research concepts and using integer programming, and will provide the city or the county or the agency with the best mix of project, with basically getting the right treatment at the right time at the right location. I was able to use this system very successfully during my years at TxDOT with my colleagues, and TxDOT is still successfully using the system. The beauty of the system that it can be used for any size agency. It can be used for agencies the size like TxDOT, and can be used also for counties. So regardless of the size of the network, the system will allow you to get the best return on investment. Let's look at an example of how a city is using a modern pavement management practice. The city of Austin is a great example of using modern pavement management practices to achieve positive results. They basically used step 4 to identify the funding gap. And based on that, they were able to achieve 37% increase in funding in maintenance. They went from 19 million to 26 million over 3 years. So using data-driven approaches and presenting the results of the analysis to their city leaders, they were able to achieve these great results. They were also able to communicate with their city leaders, and they were able to get a 25% increase in annual funding in rehab and reconstruction. They went from 12 million to 15 million. Overall, using data-driven approaches and using pavement management, they were able to get an additional $16 million in funding. This will allow the city of Austin to do more projects, to do more overlays, or to do more chip seals by using modern pavement management practices, and to be able to communicate with their city leaders the results. So now let me ask the question. We have the survey. You know, some of you are collecting pavement data, which is good. Some of you are not. That's okay. You can always start now. Let me ask you the next question. Are you making the best use of your funds? I know that everyone who's working for the agency, they want to make the best use of your funds. But let me ask you, can you do better? Are you ready for a proactive approach? We're here and we want to work with you to help you save time, money, and lives, and get the best return on investment. And now we'll open it to questions.
Awesome, Magdy, great job. We do have a handful of questions that we will get to. If you have more, feel free to throw some in the Q&A as we're going here. First one, Magdy, is what does our agency need to have in place to implement a pavement management system?
You need to start with the data collection. So you need to have the data, and then you need to have some decision trees, you know, the decisions that you're making on how to rehab your roads. And you need to have some performance models. And if you don't have performance models, you can use some of your engineering judgment and expertise to kind of as a starting points for these performance models.
And you know, a big question has always come up is how much data do we need to actually start using a system?
You can start with now, you know, it's good to always to have, you know, a lot of data, but if you don't have data, this should not be an obstacle, and you can start now.
starting from the ground, how long does it take to implement a pavement management system? I know that's a big concern is, hey, how long is this going to take?
The implementation can take several months depending on the agency and the requirements. It can vary from 3 months to 6 months depending on the requirements.
How do you necessarily, or how do you quantify the effectiveness of the different maintenance and rehabilitation processes or the treatments?
Every treatment will have a different impact on the scores. So some will maybe improve the scores to 90%, and some may improve it to 100%. And some may last for 8 years, and others may last to 10 or 12 years. So that's how you evaluate the effectiveness of the different treatments.
So you did mention, being able to or the necessity to predict things. How exactly can you help predict future conditions of a pavement?
Having the performance models will allow the agency to predict the future condition.
Is it possible to import pavement management system data from other softwares like Paver into AgileAssets?
It's very easy. You can easily migrate the data from any system into AgileAssets solutions.
I think this is a good one too. When there's no historical data for some agencies, how can a pavement management system predict the future conditions of the region, and how accurate could that possibly be?
You have to kind of generate models. And so the models are not going to be based on the historical data. They're going to be based on the engineering judgment and expertise. So for example, that the overlay in this region or in this county, part of the county only lasts for 6 years. Or the overlays in the other part of the county may last more. They have better subgrades. So using these models, you can predict the future condition.
Do you consider weather impacts? And I would imagine we could just even open up to more just weather within pavement management system implementation.
Yes, the performance models we can have trees of performance models that can be based on regions, could be based on environment, based on traffic levels or truckloads, etc.
At this point, can you use Google Street View images for the data? Is that I don't know if you know if that's a...
You can have access to images from within the system. We can generate links that can take you to the image for the specific location. This could be from Google, or those could be the images from your service provider that's doing automated data collection.
Do you have these are really great questions, so keep them coming. We got a few more minutes, so we can answer a few more. Do you have prediction models for pavement friction or skid number?
Currently, we don't have default models for pavement friction and skid numbers, but we can always work with an agency based on their experience and based on their data to establish these models.
What is the difference? Obviously, this is going to be a question of, which software should we go with? What is the difference between AgileAssets and Paver?
There are many differences between AgileAssets and Paver. One is the true optimization that allows the agency to do analysis by defining an objective and defining a constraint. So you can have a multi-constraint analysis, and you can develop multi-year plans, multi-strategy plans, and you can answer a lot of what-if scenarios based on true optimization concept. The word optimization sometimes is used loosely, but true optimization uses operation research concept, uses integer programming. Another big difference is the GIS capabilities. We interface with Esri. You can bring GIS layers within Pavement Analyst. You can publish layers on Esri. You can kind of generate maps, different types of maps. You have the ability to do a lot of geospatial analysis. You can generate maps that will put planned pavement projects on top of upcoming utility project that help the coordinations between different departments. So it will allow for a lot of kind of GIS analysis. And we can also generate dashboards and advanced interactive reports.
Do you recommend to collect more than one indicator to have optimal solution, IRI and PCI at the same time?
It's always a good idea to have, more than one index, and it's good. It's a limitation to run analysis based only on one index. It's always a good capability to be able to run analysis on different types of indices, or you can even run the analysis based on minimizing a specific type of distress.
Can you interface multiple systems in the AgileAssets, so pavement management, let's say with maintenance management?
Yes, the system can interface with maintenance management, so you can track your work history, you can track your maintenance activities, and that will kind of help you in evaluating the effectiveness of the different treatments, and you can track your work history.
Do IRA prediction models exist in the AgileAssets software?
We can generate models for any parameters. So like I know right now TxDOT have an IRI model.
Is AgileAssets incorporating reliability concepts into treatment selection at a network level?
Reliability, it can be involved, it can be included, but right now the treatment selections are based on the decision trees.
We can get to probably one or two more. Is there any possibility in the system to correlate PCI and IRI?
If you have both information, yes.
Awesome. I think that's, let's answer one more. Is maintenance management part of pavement management?
Maintenance management is a different system that will, the agency can use to generate work orders and also to track the performance of the different assets and to track kind of the quantities used on materials and labor and equipment.
Awesome. I think that looks like that's about all the questions we have. Magdy, thank you. That was really awesome. Again, everyone, we are going to post this whole webinar with the slides in about a week. You'll all get an email about it. There is a survey right after this. Please feel free to take a moment, fill out the survey so we can continue to get better at doing these webinars. And if you want to find out any more information, please head over to AgileAssets.com. Magdy, once again, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for listening and being a part of this webinar, and continue to check back for other webinars that we're going to have in the future. Have a great afternoon and a great evening, everyone. Thanks for joining.